The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
I swear, if you people could hear what goes on behind the scenes here at Wrestling Unwrapped, a lot of the times it's even funnier than what happens on the show. And we're usually pretty funny people. Wait a minute, I'm not Patrick. What's going on here? That's right, it's Flip It and Reverse It night here at Wrestling Unwrapped as we cover a show that I don't have a DVD copy of, therefore Patrick gets to give you the results. My name is Harry Broadhurst. I am traditionally your co-host. Tonight I am your host. This is
Hey, Rob, let's not push it.
This is Wrestling Unwrapped here on the W2M Network, available online at www.w2mnet.com, where you can find the newest article by myself and Patrick. December to Dismember is up, Patrick. We're actually hitting the archives. And frankly, after reliving that show, I kind of want to hit Vince.
Yeah, by starting to hit the archives, I now want to hit the bottle.
I'm straight edging that show is going to drive me to drink. Anywho, once again, this is Wrestling Unwrapped, episode 29, as we go back all of a grand total of about 2.5 months. We're slacking in our middle age, Patrick.
Only one of us is middle-aged.
Our show is middle-aged. We're 29.
Our show's older than us. Oh, good Lord.
Well, the show's older than you. I'm about to turn 32 in 2 weeks, but that's beside the point. I'm Harry Broadhurst. He is Patrick Ketza. What's going on, Patrick? How about them Falcons?
I'm so happy right now. That was fun to watch.
I got the Steelers and Patriots game on in the background while we do the show, but I can promise that I won't have any snide remarks like I did during Clemson and Alabama because I actually had more of a vested interest in that game. All right. Before we get into Patrick giving you your results from the 2016 edition of the Survivor Series, it is at this point that I would like to remind you all that Wrestling Unwrapped is brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest, stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you are a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, VHSs, magazines, posters, pretty much anything wrestling related that you can think of, you can find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase. That is stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. Do you have the results pulled up for you, sir?
Yes, I'm not you. I'm usually ready ahead of time.
I will have you know that I usually have the results up. I just have to find them.
Okay.
Not to mention, I actually take the time to write out my results by hand. You're cheating by using Wikipedia, so I don't want to hear from you.
Because I wasn't planning on doing the results originally.
Well, yeah, there's that. I mean, the whole me not having the show kind of threw off our entire format. But, all right, enough bickering like divorcing parents for us. Why don't you go ahead and get into the results for Survivor Series 2016?
Thank you very much, Harry. And yes, this is the 30th annual, not 30th anniversary, like the WWE usually does, Survivor Series from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Like we said last week, we didn't have to move very far. In the opening contest, Team Raw defeats Team SmackDown in a 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series elimination match in 1730, when Bayley last eliminates Becky Lynch via the Bayley to Belly, with the sole survivors being Bayley and Charlotte. Then
It's almost like that ties into what's going to happen next Sunday.
Oh, that's weird. Next, The Miz defeats Sami Zayn in a match for the Intercontinental Championship at 14:05 via a schoolboy pin after Maurice rings the effing bell. We'll talk about that later. So The Miz retains the Intercontinental Championship.
It physically pains you to have to say The Miz, doesn't it?
Huh?
It physically pains you to have to say The Miz wins, doesn't it?
We'll get to that. Team Raw defeats Team SmackDown to take a 2-0 lead in a 10-on-10 traditional Survivor Series tag team match in 1855 when Cesaro and therefore Sheamus are the sole survivors, last eliminating Jimmy Uso when Cesaro taps him out via the sharpshooter.
Get well soon, Tyson.
Huh?
Get well soon, Tyson.
True. Brian Kendrick defeats Kalisto to retain the Cruiserweight Championship via disqualification at 12:25 when Baron Corbin interferes and hits Kalisto with the End of Days.
Yeah, technically wrong. Kalisto defeats Brian Kendrick by disqualification.
Oh, yeah. Oops, sorry. I'm tired too. Leave me alone.
That's okay. I noticed you skipped the pre-show matches. I mean, did you actually remember watching the pre-show?
I did, but they weren't that good.
Yeah, and Kane had no business pinning Luke Harper in 2016 either. All right, moving on. Carry on. Next match.
Well, those matches won't affect us anyway.
I'm still
down.
Sorry, I am gonna bitch about Kane pinning Luke Harper in 2016 more later on in the show, but that's beside the point. Carry on.
Team SmackDown defeats Team Raw in a traditional Survivor Series 5-on-5 men's match when Bray Wyatt last eliminates Roman Reigns at 52-48. So Raw wins the overall 2-1.
So, in preparation for doing this, I actually read Larry's review, and the time that Larry had was 53:31. So, your timing is subject to differences, apparently.
We'll get into that because a website that I use quite a bit for like timing and things like that lists it at 55. Hang on.
Was that what?
Let me get the last result then. All right?
All right. Go ahead, and then we'll discuss that website, because I think I know the website at hand.
Probably. And in the main event, Goldberg defeats Brock Lesnar via the jackhammer at 1 minute and 28 seconds. No, you heard that right.
No, you didn't. Wikipedia screwed that up. It's 1 minute and 26 seconds. The WWE has said as much themselves.
Okay, 126. Who really cares at that point?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll get into more detail about this here, but I got three simple letters for you. UFC, UFC, UFC. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. And that finishes the results for WWE Survivor Series 2016. Shall I take it over from here?
Yeah, you might as well, because you got our little preview to read, so why don't you go ahead and take it over here?
Alrighty. So, yeah, luckily we only have 6 matches to cover. The problem is, one of those matches is one of the longest matches in any WWE history, and B is the longest match in Survivor Series history. This will be fun. So, What happens when you have a battle for brand supremacy? What happens when one guy can't go longer than 2 minutes, despite the fact that you built that match up for 12 freaking years, essentially? Hell, let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, this is the 2016 edition, the 30th annual Survivor Series. And as we mentioned, we kick things off with the women's match. And the whole point of it, we probably should get into the backstory a little bit. The whole point of most of this pay-per-view was SmackDown had challenged Raw to, like I said, a battle for brand supremacy. Rather than doing like a bragging rights-esque pay-per-view or anything like that, they did the smart thing and decided to do it at Survivor Series.
Hey.
What?
Don't you go bad-mouthing bragging rights. Some of us have an emotional connection to that show, damn it.
I know, but it was unnecessary.
I mean, I guess technically if you think about it in the context of the whole Survivor Series term, it makes sense that Survivor Series would be where the two brands would battle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't bitch too much about it, but still. There's no reason to go knocking the bragging rights pay-per-view because some of us have very fond memories of those shows.
I know you do, but I just feel it was unnecessary. Moving on. So SmackDown told Raw, bring your 5 best tag teams, bring your 5 best guys, bring your 5 best female superstars, and it would essentially be a best of 3. You could kind of backhand and say that it was actually a best of 5 because of the 5 non-main event matches. All of them were Raw versus SmackDown. But they're mostly just focusing on the actual Survivor Series matches here. So,
well, no, I'm actually more inclined to agree with you in the fact that I think this was more of a best of 5. I mean, Raw still technically wins 3-2, but actually under that line, I think what in SmackDown win 3-2 because the two non-Survivor Series matches. The two non-Survivor Series matches both went to SmackDown talents, Miz and Kalisto, by disqualification.
I mean, technically, yeah. You could say that SmackDown does win, although they pretty much completely ignored this point the very next night.
And the following Tuesday as well.
I was going to say the next 2 nights, actually.
Yeah. We are in the SmackDown Live era by this point, although obviously going to be the first show that we'll cover where SmackDown is live full time.
Yes. So, real quick now, we get into the opener, and it is the women's 5-on-5 tag team match. It is Team Raw, consisting of Team Captain, Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Alicia Fox, Nia Jax, with Dana Brooke also in their corner, because facing... hang on, let me finish. Facing Team SmackDown, which is, I think, led by Becky Lynch.
Wrong. Team Captain was Nikki Bella.
Okay. So, it was... we'll explain. It was Team Captain Nikki Bella teaming with SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, and Carmella, originally, right up until the 10th and final entrant, who was supposed to be the team captain. However, Nikki Bella is found backstage holding her head. Apparently she had been attacked from behind in a complete sneak attack and would be unable to wrestle. Who would step into her place? The Team SmackDown coach. Yes, SmackDown had a coach. That would be Natalya. So she would end up being the 5th member of Team SmackDown Live.
Yeah, it would technically be Natalya in regards to, it would technically be Natalya playing the role of Dana Brooke for her team until Nikki gets hurt, and then Natalya ends up in the actual match itself.
Are you really calling Dana Brooke Team Raw's coach?
I would think of it more as a cheerleader. Hey, I'd like to have Dana Brooke in my
of the team.
I'd like to have Dana Brooke in my corner.
Do you know who you'd have to fight to have Dana Brooke in your corner?
Yeah, but in fairness, he never wins big matches, so I think I'd be okay.
Not him. Anymore.
She's dating Dolph, dude.
Not anymore.
What?
You'd have to face Braun. Anyway.
Really? Strowman? That Kinder-using oaf? Yeah, that's right.
That one.
That's right. I went there. What up? All right, anywho.
Anyway, as far as the actual eliminations to this match go, Carmella is the first one out, thanks to Alicia Fox. Then Alicia Fox is out almost immediately after, thanks to Alexa Bliss to make it 4-on-4. Naomi is counted out. Then Natalya pins Sasha Banks to now make it 3-on-3. Charlotte defeats Natalya. Huh?
Wrong. I am 90. Oh, wait. Sasha really went out that early? I thought Sasha went out after Nia did.
No.
Wow. Way to make Sasha look not impressive there. Okay, carry on.
Natalya defeats Sasha. Then Charlotte defeats Natalya to make it 2-on... No. Crap. Hang on. 3-on-2. Then Nia pulls... Or Becky Lynch defeats Nia via the disarmor to make it 2-on-2. Taps
Nia, which is something that we'll get into in more detail here once we actually review the match.
However, Nia then essentially jumps Becky after, leaving Alexa on her own for the time being, and she ends up losing to Charlotte via just a big boot, leaving it down to 2-on-1. It was Charlotte and Bayley versus Becky Lynch, and try as she might, Becky Lynch eventually succumbs to the Bayley to belly suplex, thereby your sole survivors being Bayley and Charlotte. With which Charlotte almost immediately just says screw it and jumps Bayley and beats the hell out of her to establish her dominance as the queen of the women's division. Of course, there'd still be another month of this going on with Charlotte and Sasha, but now that we're moved past this, you could say that this was the start of Charlotte and Bayley leading up to next Sunday.
Well, I would make the argument that Charlotte and Bayley actually started in the build to Clash of Champions. Or not Clash of Champions. Which was,
yes, Clash of Champions.
Was Hell in a Cell before Clash of Champions?
No. Clash of Champions was September.
Okay, yeah, but that was when they didn't think Sasha was going to be back in time to work Clash of Champions, and it got turned into a three-way. Because originally wasn't it supposed to be Charlotte and Bayley at Clash of Champions until Sasha got cleared?
I don't remember that ever being in the plans.
Well, I know they had the three-way at Clash of Champions, and then it ended up being Charlotte and Sasha one-on-one inside of Hell in a Cell. The reason I bring this up here is because technically the feud started early because Bayley's big breakout on Raw was her pinning Charlotte in both a singles match and a tag match with the Bayley to belly.
I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right in that aspect. However, I feel like after Clash of Champions, it felt like they kind of just put the whole Bayley thing on hold and said, wait, no, we're going to keep going with Sasha, leading to the Hell in a Cell, and then after this, leading to Roadblock. So it almost felt like they kind of hit the pause button, and Survivor Series was the play button to restart everything until they could get past Roadblock, because it was a little bit of both Bayley and Sasha throughout November before we finally got to the point where we are now, where it's strictly Bayley and Bayley versus Charlotte, and leading to the women's championship match, because Sasha's now at the end of the line and will stay there for the foreseeable future.
To steal a line from an old WWF pay-per-view entry, the end is near. To steal a line from a certain king, the end is nigh, the end is nigh. Run away, the end is nigh. Really? No love for King Ross? Fine, be that way.
It's not so much the love of King Ross, it's, especially because you butchered that line.
There's certain words in that line we can't use.
No. It's run for your lives, not run away, Cole. Anyway.
So back to the actual women here. Look, I understand the reasoning for wanting to do 5-on-5, but are you telling me Raw really couldn't have found a better fifth person than Alicia Fox? I mean, I'd have rather had Dana in the match than Alicia.
This was legitimately their entire active roster of women.
Which tells me that they need to sign some people to replenish that roster a little bit.
Women's tournament. Excuse me, sorry.
It was summer. I think I caught what you have. Anywho.
Yeah. Influenza.
Wow. We'll talk about that segment next, too, by the way, because I actually do want to touch on that backstage segment before we move on into the next match that happened after this match. But so back to the women's match itself. Nothing really spectacular here. Honestly, it seemed kind of convoluted to me, and it looked like a lot of the times the girls weren't sure what they were doing. Lots of moments of confusion, lots of moments of questioning where to go next in the match, and just seemed like a lot of general disorganization.
Yeah, the whole, at times the match seems like a complete cluster. I do wonder if there's a little bit of unfamiliarity with this, because as dumb as it may sound, this is still kind of a new thing for the women. Having not just having a Survivor Series style match. Those have happened, all the time. But to actually have kind of a bigger, important, non-5 minute, this one goes a decent amount of time. To have that kind of a match, it seemed a little weird and almost felt like they felt they were out of place, considering the fact that, you're not used to having 10, technically 11 women in one match at one time.
The other thing, too, that I think hurts this match is that it's not exactly what you would consider your traditional opener either. I would almost argue that you'd have been better off having the Tag Team Survivor Series match kick off the show, since they went around the same time, and the crowd was a lot hotter for the Tag Team one than they were for the women's one.
The crowd wasn't hotter, they were angrier. They couldn't see what was going on in the ring. Everyone was blocking them. So, but I see your point. The crowd did seem more into it, and the crowd definitely was happy for Bayley winning, and then almost immediately they just look at it and just go, nope.
I understand the point of wanting to establish dominance for Charlotte there, But if you were going to do Charlotte and Sasha, I'm sure they didn't know they were going to do Charlotte and Sasha at Roadblock at this point because Raw creative staff has no idea what the hell they're doing most of the time. But if you knew you were going to do Charlotte and Sasha at Roadblock End of the Line, then why not have Charlotte and Sasha as the final two participants on Team Raw there, and then have Charlotte jump Sasha after the bell rather than Bayley? Like, I appreciate the shine moment for Bayley. I do. I get it. I understand why you want to do that. But at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, specifically going into your December pay-per-view, it doesn't make sense to me.
Or have Charlotte be the reason Sasha gets eliminated. Sasha's elimination was clean as a whistle. Nothing happened. Just Natalya pinned her. That was it.
Wasn't it a roll-up by Natalya?
Yes.
I want to say it was an O'Connell roll, actually, like some kind of bridged roll-up.
May have.
If memory serves. And then Natalya immediately went out when Charlotte Yakuza kicked her.
Yeah, pretty much. So
legitimate Japanese businesswoman kick.
I can't believe you just pulled Chono. Anyway. So, Team Raw now up 1-0. So,
okay.
Our next contest...
No, not our next contest, because we're going into a backstage segment here, and there's a very specific reason here. Do you know how we always bitch about the lack of continuity in the WWE?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Okay, so backstage we go, and our friend, our hero, your friend and mine, James Ellsworth, is...
Oh, that, okay. I thought this was later in the show. Okay.
is being insulted by Anderson and Gallows. Frankly, Anderson and Gallows run in the WWE up to this point left them open to insult nobody, but that's neither here nor there. So Mick Foley comes in and tells Anderson and Gallows to more or less scram. And then Ellsworth is confronted by another demon from his past. This time, a literal monster of a demon in the 6'8", 375-pound, eating steak.
This demon is not Kane. Don't worry.
No, he was on the pre-show, and we'll talk about that once we get to the actual Survivor Series tag main event. But
I know we will.
This particular demon has the name of Braun Strowman. We always bitch about the WWE's lack of continuity. Whoever decided to run this segment, well done. Bravo. I could not stop laughing when Strowman walked into the picture.
He walks into the picture, legitimately looks at Ellsworth and just goes, "Don't I know you?" And Ellsworth runs off.
I want to give credit where credit was due. Well played.
It was 6 seconds long, and legitimately, it was the hardest I laughed the entire night. Alrighty. So
just remember, Patrick, any man with two hands. All right, moving on.
Sure. Moving on. Our next contest isn't considered Raw versus SmackDown, but it is. It doesn't count towards the overall count of matches, but it is SmackDown's Intercontinental Champion, The Miz, accompanied to the ring by Maurice, versus Raw's Sami Zayn, and it is for the Intercontinental Championship. And the rule was made, if Sami were to win the championship in this contest, the title would switch to Raw. And it would be the exact same stipulations for the later Brian Kendrick and Kalisto match, where if Kalisto won, the Cruiserweight title would move to SmackDown.
But the difference is that if Kalisto won, then the entire division moved to SmackDown, not just the title. All right, as for the match, I've stated many times while we were doing our pay-per-view reviews and stuff over the course of the year, or what pay-per-view reviews that did make air, that, and I actually said as much in my vote as well, that I felt Miz was the Wrestler of the Year for 2016. Him and Sammy had decent chemistry, but I can't help but think what might have been had they left this match as Dolph Ziggler versus Sami Zayn. I feel like that would have been a very interesting match to see.
Which is a point that I heard multiple times. Trying to think. Oh, the reason I'm mentioning this now is because of the fact that it was a commentary line. Tonight's commentary team is everybody. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, Byron Saxton for Raw, JBL, Mauro Ranallo, and Noah Tunga. There's someone else.
Tom Phillips, maybe?
Maybe. But I think Michael Cole only fills in for, it's a four-man crew. It's
Corey,
Mauro, Corey, and JBL for the Survivor Series matches. It's JBL, Cole, and Corey for the regular matches.
I know they worked four-man booths for all 6 matches. Cole and Mauro switched off. The other 3 were constants, I believe.
Maybe. Yeah. And, yeah, that's a point that was brought up, was the fact that a lot of people, myself included for obvious reasons, would have preferred Dolph versus Sammy. That match probably would have been an almost instant match of the night.
Well,
I hate doing this, but I will give credit where it's due. While not great, no greatest of all time kind of thing, but I thought the match was pretty good. Their chemistry, not perfect, but it was at least enough to get its own. And if you give Sami Zayn any decent amount of time, he's probably going to pull one out of the hat in terms of, at least a good match, no matter who he's facing.
Absolutely. He'll pull an excellent match out. He'll pull at least an above-average match out of his beanie.
All right.
Yeah, it's not so much the match we take an issue with here, because the match itself is perfectly tolerable. Not great, but...
Don't make the joke. Don't make the damn joke.
No, not great, but considerably above average, I'd say.
Okay.
It is the Mike Sanders of this pay-per-view.
Oh! Wow!
Hey, we're getting ready to cover. We're getting ready to cover WCW 2000 in April, pal. I'm just warming you up.
Oh, my head hurts, you jerk!
I got it with a Mike Sanders line. Awesome. All right.
All right. Yeah.
Why did he take a moment to recover from his Mike Sanders-induced idiocy? It's not so much the match that we take an issue with here on Wrestling Unwrapped here. It's the finish and their constant need to revisit 1997 over and over and over and over, and you get the point.
Now, this is the first time, though, that they've pulled it this way. Wherein...
We were talking about this before. We came on the air, and I said I actually give them credit for the fact that they used Maurice to do it. But it was you that pointed out that you're just getting sick of all the Montreal revisitations.
Yeah, And in this case, it wasn't a case of faking the tap out and ringing the bell. this was a case of, well, it was the same, but it was different. This was, instead of having this be for the how the hell do I explain this? Because it does feel different than the normal iterations of it.
This was Maurice saving Miz's ass. Okay, so let's set the picture for our listening audience that hasn't seen the show. And I'd imagine most of you listening to this have seen the show, but if you haven't, let's set the picture. Sammy has Miz trapped in the Koji clutch. Another week, another Koji clutch here on Wrestling Unwrapped. It is the move of destiny on this show.
I'm fairly certain it was not the Koji clutch. I think it was the figure four.
You might actually be right there. It might have been the figure four.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all figure four that Sammy had on Miz.
You're right, because he pulled down Miz's knee pad before he put it on.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, Sammy has Miz trapped in the figure four. Miz looks like he's about to tap when the bell rings. Sammy, being dumb babyface number 1,313, lets go of the move thinking he's won the title, despite there being no obvious sign that the Miz tapped or that the referee called for the bell himself. We pan over and we see Maurice over by the ring bell with the hammer in hand, which, by the way, bravo, Maurice. Just on general principle, really.
Anyway.
But, yes, back to the discussion here. As apparently she was the one who, as Patrick put it in our results earlier, rang the f***ing bell.
So, yeah. Sammy
referee yells at Maurice. Sammy yells at Maurice. Miz rolls up Sammy and retains the title.
Because F you.
Quit hating Miz.
No.
We're supposed to be unbiased journalists here.
Too damn bad.
And I think I'm about done watching this game.
Duh, I could have told you that. Anyway.
Although it is kind of funny to see Guskowski shank an extra point. All right, anyway. So my question to you on the finish. You ready?
Yes.
Is Maurice that smart? Is Sammy that stupid, or both?
Let's face it, it was loud in that arena.
Well, Sammy is a hometown Canadian by way of Tijuana, Mexico.
No, that's El Generico.
Oh, that's his cousin. Never mind, you're right. Sammy is a Canadian.
Yeah, Sammy's from Montreal, which, by the way, I'm almost dead certain I heard them mention Sammy being from Toronto. I'm like, no, Sammy's from Montreal. Those are two different cities.
Hashtag babyface. Hashtag hometown babyface. Make it happen.
Sure, why not? I mean, yeah, it's, idiot babyface number, what number? 1491?
1313.
Oh, 1313. Dead End Drive?
Dude, that was my game. All right, moving on. We don't have time to get into kick-ass. We don't have time to get into kick-ass board games of the past.
I mean, if you hear the bell and you've got a submission on, you're going to think you won. At least in this case, there was a bell. You always see idiot baby face, like, Brother Jack Dude at WrestleMania 9, which we're also covering in the future because we hate ourselves, celebrates thinking he won the title, but there's no indication given one way or another. In this case, Sammy reacted to hearing the bell. That's a loud-ass bell. So, I can understand him breaking the hold. He thought he won. He heard the bell. As far as not tapping out, Miz was swinging his hands around. That's an easy thing to overcome in terms of suspense of disbelief. You know, Miz was moving his hands around. Sammy hears the bell. Sammy thinks Miz tapped out. Now, going by what we know about how long this pay-per-view was, I don't know that I would have immediately ended it via a roll-up. Maybe go for a couple more minutes at least. But
I think the fact that the pay-per-view ended the way that it did with as much time left as it does makes the ending to the main event all the more shocking. So I'm okay with how this went.
So, yeah. We'll mention it more when we get to the main event. The runtime on the network for this pay-per-view is 3 hours and 32 minutes. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, when you factor in an hour-long pre-show as well, though.
2 hours.
Really? It was 2? Jesus.
All 4-hour pay-per-views have a 2-hour pre-show now.
I'd reiterate my aforementioned statement. Jesus.
Yep. I can't wait till Mania is 7 hours long. Anyway.
You know what the thing about it is that's intended kind of snarkily, but it actually probably is going to be. Pre-show will start to 5, and then the pay-per-view will run from 7 to midnight.
Yep, just like they did last year. Last year now. Jeez, losing track of time already. Anyway, so yes, The Miz retains his Intercontinental Championship. Moving on to our next match. It is match number 2 of the Battle for Brand Supremacy, as it is once again Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, this time in a 10-on-10 Survivor Series Elimination Tag Team match.
Okay, first of all, tag match player. Second of all, I want to say that this is the first time that they've actually done tag teams being involved in the Survivor Series match with each other. Since we go all the way back to 1988.
Oh, in that case, yes. Legitimately, this is only the third time they've done a tag team Survivor Series match, mostly because, like I actually mentioned earlier jokingly, but kind of seriously, you can't see a damn thing.
Oh, no, it's a pain in the ass for announcers to see around people on the ringside apron, and they have television monitors to work with. If you're fans, especially if you're fans in those first couple of rows where you have seats that you paid X, Y amount of dollars for, and you got all those people standing on the apron, I guarantee you they're cursing their very existence at that point. Like, what the I can't see a thing.
Yeah. So, real quick, to run through everything, for Team Raw, it is the cap. Watch.
Just go through the teams. Don't mention the eliminations because we'll be here all night.
Okay. So, for Team Raw, it is the New Day, in this case, Kofi and Big E, still the tag champs at this point, Cesaro and Sheamus, Enzo and Big Cass, the Shining Stars, and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, obviously with Xavier Woods at ringside, facing Team SmackDown, featuring the captains of the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, Heath Slater and Rhino, the Hype Bros, American Alpha, Breezango, and the Usos.
Okay, first of all, yet again, I find myself in a similar situation as I was for the women's match here. You can't tell me that the women's match would have been better off without Alicia Fox, and you can take off somebody from SmackDown as well. I mean, given the characters and the involvement of all 5 women in that match, there, I would say the obvious choice would be Naomi. Unfortunate though.
5 on 5. 5 on 5.
I get that, but for the longest time, Survivor Series was 4 on 4 as well.
Oh, they wanted to go back to a traditional way. Traditional, when it started, for the first several years, was always 5 on 5. I don't think they switched to 4-on-4 until, like, 91.
Okay, but my point being here is that anybody take the Shining Stars seriously? And for as good as they are as a team, and for as entertaining as they are as characters, does anybody take Breezango seriously? I personally prefer Febreze for the team, but I understand that there's copyright laws and we can't use that.
Yeah. See, legitimately, Breezango was only there for the first, you know what, hang on.
36
the match
seconds.
goes 18, 41 seconds. Thanks to the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere from Big E and Kofi.
Okay, it's called the Midnight Hour.
All right, Midnight Train to Georgia, whatever.
Damn it, that's 2.
Yeah, right. Anyway. The Midnight of the
and now Aretha Franklin is stuck in my head. You jackass.
Is it Aretha Franklin who sings Midnight Train to Georgia? I don't think it is.
I'm 100% sure it is.
Anyway, so, yeah, a couple of the teams are eliminated almost immediately.
Yeah, one of them being the New Day, which I think bears a significant mention here.
Oh, by the way, guess what, smartass? Gladys Knight.
And the Pips. Son of a...
Yep.
Whatever. Point
Anyway.
being, you got the song stuck in my head. But no, back to the match itself. Let's specifically talk about, okay, yeah, Breezango getting eliminated in 36 seconds really doesn't surprise anybody. Let's be honest. Tyler and Curtis have been treated as a joke. Even though they actually
they're good.
Yeah, they actually work really well together as a team, which is unfortunate. But so the next elimination is the one I want to talk about here, and that is the fact that of all the Raw tag teams in this match, the first one to go out were not the Shining Stars. It was the New Day.
Yeah, as they're eliminated legitimately, like, not even a minute into the match. 106.
Yeah,
I have their elimination 106 into the match. That's it.
correct me if I'm wrong, double super kick by the Usos?
Single super kick.
Oh, so it was half a Young Buck. Okay.
Yeah. No, it couldn't be the Young Bucks. It was actually treated as a finisher.
That's true. I have a friend who
I went there. What about it?
I have a friend who constantly refers to the Usos as the Samoan Young Bucks.
For a long time they were, but at least in this case, the super kick was a finisher.
Although Jimmy does have the best tequila sunrise this side of Conan.
Fair enough.
All right.
But yeah, the New Day being eliminated. Here, I'll put it this way: bell to bell, Brock Lesnar lasted longer than the Raw Tag Team Champions.
Okay, in fairness, it was like 20 seconds, so let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No longer. Brock Lesnar lasted longer than Ronda Rousey.
Yes, Brock Lesnar also made significantly more than all 10 members of this tag match combined.
I don't know about that anymore. I'm sure the New Day makes bank.
Awesome.
Everybody else, though, absolutely. Wait, all 10 members? All 20 members?
Nope, only 10. I've given up on half the teams already.
Fair enough. By the way, one thing that I should mention is I believe at one point Epico tags himself into the match off of Big Cass. Big Cass is obviously mad about it, but he goes over the top rope and legitimately comes within about 3 inches, not purposely, not maliciously or anything. He comes within 3 inches of putting his foot through Primo's skull. just stepping over the top rope.
I don't know about you, but there is something eminently hittable about the Colognes in general, so I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't blame them either. But so yeah, it's kind of a half shock, half not finish here, as the final two teams that are in the match are the Usos, which I figured you would kind of expect.
Wait, stop. Before we continue, I feel the need to talk about one of the other eliminations as well, and something that I kind of wanted to discuss here. We also had the SmackDown Tag Team Champions get eliminated here, and I mean, yeah, everybody knows that Slater and Rhino were kind of a short-term fix to a long-term problem as far as their tag team titles. It was a way to give Heath Slater something to work with. It was a nice way to bring Rhino back to the main roster and let him have some fun with Slater, because the two of them together made for a very entertaining team, even if they weren't necessarily the best in the ring. But I do want to mention the fact that it was Anderson and Gallows that did get the victory over Heath Slater and Rhino. So I wanted to kind of point out that with Anderson and Gallows apparently heading towards a tag team title shot, or at least another tag team title shot after what happened on Raw this past Monday, for the sake of...
Wait. How are they eliminated? Repeat what you just said. How were they eliminated?
Slater and Rhino were eliminated by Anderson and Gallows.
No, Slater and Rhino eliminated Anderson and Gallows. Slater and Rhino were eliminated via the bada boom shaka waka from
Enzo and Cass. You're right. I could have sworn I remembered Gallows kicking Slater in the face.
Well, I mean, Slater does have a kickable face.
He does. Much the same as the Colognes.
Yeah, because Gallows and Anderson, basically everyone was eliminated team, get eliminated. And then the team that eliminated you, they get eliminated, and on and on and on. Because that's pretty much how it went. Gallows and Anderson eliminated Alpha. Gallows and Anderson were then eliminated by Heath Slater and Rhino, who were then eliminated by Enzo and Cass, who were then eliminated by, I believe, the Usos, to put it down to 2-2. And then the Usos were eliminated by Cesaro and Sheamus.
And now that you mentioned that, I remember Rhino spearing Anderson to eliminate Anderson and Gallows. You're right. My mistake. Never mind.
There you go.
All right, let's talk finish.
And the finish being after a complete chaos-filled, usual Cesaro and Sheamus tag team match, because, of course, the finish actually comes relatively simply of Cesaro swing and sharpshooter, because in this case, they actually treated the sharpshooter somewhat legitimately and actually had a legitimate tap out for it in a Survivor Series in Canada. Screw you, Vince.
Ring up and this one's over. Anyways, but
legitimately, he actually tapped out this time.
You're missing part of the finish, though, and I feel that it's relevant because of the developing teamwork trademark that Cesaro and Sheamus were showing. Let's not forget that Jay tried to break it up with a super kick and got caught with a brogue kick by Sheamus that thwarted any and all attempts to break up said finish.
This is true. This would be kind of the first moment of actual
teamwork,
or however you want to call it, between the two of them, and it would kind of lead to, the fake tag that they'd win the Raw tag team titles with at Roadblock. While the Usos, despite being healed, once again, fade to obscurity.
Yeah, where have they been? Did one of them get hurt again?
I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the act was stale before the heel turn, but they've actually been very entertaining since they've come back. The matches, while relatively underwhelming, the matches with Alpha haven't been bad.
So yeah, it ends up being that Cesaro and Sheamus pick up the victory, and I believe it would earn them a tag team title shot, which they would fail the first time, then they'd get another tag shot at Roadblock.
Okay, so what would happen is Stephanie would award Sheamus and Cesaro a tag team title match the next night on Raw. Cesaro would have Kofi trapped in the sharpshooter. Kofi would tap out, but the referee would see Xavier Woods hit Sheamus with his trombone and call for the disqualification. There would then be another match on Raw where I want to say that Xavier Woods came into the ring and that led to the roll-up, or it was either. I have to remember this here because we weren't doing the reaction full time at this point, so I don't remember if we actually.
Basically, it was another fluky finish.
And then that finally led to a singles match, which Cesaro won, which got them the tag title rematch, the return match at Roadblock, and then that's where the fake tag finish ended the New Day's reign.
Yeah. So obviously, at this point, bigger things were to come for Cesaro and Sheamus. So moving on to our next contest, after, stalling for 5 minutes so that they could change the ropes, our next contest is for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. And there's actually quite a bit on the line, as we mentioned earlier. It is the champion, the Brian Kendrick, the man with the plan himself, taking on Kalisto. Kendrick representing Raw, Kalisto representing SmackDown. The stipulation was, yet again, if Kalisto wins, the Cruiserweight title switches to SmackDown, but not only that, the entire Cruiserweight division would switch to SmackDown as well. So very high stakes. Kendrick is pretty much only playing for his belt, while Kalisto has essentially an entire extension to his brand on his shoulders.
I feel the need to point out something, too, here that actually makes this even more interesting here. They had announced the impending debut of 205 Live, which would air on Tuesday nights, which was yet another reason. Which was yet another reason. No, the first episode hadn't aired yet because the first episode is when Rich Swann won the title.
I want to say 205 Live either debuted the Tuesday after the pay-per-view or the following Tuesday. It was one of the first 2 Tuesdays after the pay-per-view.
Yes, that I concur with, and I actually think it was the Tuesday after Survivor Series that it debuted. But back to
the reason I think it isn't is because I don't remember them booking Rich Swann versus Brian Kendrick the night before the debut.
Well, I think what happened was that Swann won a 4-way to get the title shot.
Yeah, but I think it was another week.
You might be right. It might have been the week after. But anyways, back to that comment. So that added a lot of speculation to those of us who thought that it was entirely possible that they would be switching the Cruiserweights over to SmackDown and then bringing in a different subgenre for the Raw undercard, like the Hardcore division or expanding the United States division or whatever have you there.
Or just move the damn women's division over, which was what a lot of people were saying they should have done in the beginning. Have the women's division on one, have the Cruiserweights on the other.
Well, they kind of did that at the start of the original brand extension, if you remember. The women's title was on Raw and the Cruiserweight title was on SmackDown.
Yeah, they could have pulled that off.
I think there are certain people and certain powers that wouldn't have appreciated women being on one show while they were on the other. Parappadoo!
Okay. Then do the Cruiserweights after Raw. You know what? Never mind. I don't want a 4-hour Monday night. 5 hours if you include main event.
Yeah, the Raw tapings, the Raw live shows are hard enough to get through as it is. Imagine doing 205 Live as well. Screw that.
So, I will say this. I don't know if it was the fact of somehow Kendrick and Perkins not meshing well or what it was, but I actually thought that this was actually a very good match going on between Kalisto and Brian Kendrick. I thought it was actually one of Brian Kendrick's best main roster matches.
Yeah, for some odd reason, despite how long they've known each other, Kendrick and Perkins never really had a good match together on pay-per-view. And this is unfortunate to me because if you go back to the Cruiserweight Classic, T.J. Perkins was good match after good match after good match at the Cruiserweight Classic, but none of his Raw matches and none of his pay-per-view matches ever really stood out as anything special. I mean, the storyline was there with everything in regards to them having the history that they did, but inside of the ring, they never really stepped up and delivered the kind of match that I feel they were capable of. I think a lot of that might have to do, too, though, is the fact that I think that they're probably telling the Cruiserweights to kind of tone it down compared to what we saw during the Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah, which is kind of a barbaric thing to say, because
it's anticlimactic to what we saw in the tournament because we're getting kind of a bastardized version of the division now.
Yeah, when WCW was featuring the Cruiserweights, they weren't telling them to tone it down.
No, then that's the exact point that I was about to make here, is that you can't do a division like the Cruiserweight division and then half-ass it. If you're going to do this kind of division with these kind of people and this kind of weight limit and their abilities and stuff, then you kind of have to allow them to access their abilities in order to get themselves over. Yeah, you're going to eventually have people who are going to get over on their characters. Jack Gallagher is the most popular Cruiserweight in the division right now because he has an established character that people enjoy. Neville's over right now because he has an established character that people hate. Brian Kendrick was just, he's a man with a plan, and that was pretty much it. Kalisto, while entertaining, had no notable gimmick to speak of at this point here, other than being Baron Corbin's bitch.
And doing a good lucha thing.
It's a joke I don't get, I'm sure.
His promo after he was drafted.
Oh, yeah, okay. I don't have the network, so lost on me.
I know. Anyway, and like I said, it sucks that this ended how it did because it's kind of weird. The 3 Survivor Series matches all ended relatively clean. The other 3 matches, all singles matches, and none of them ended clean. Well, one of them ended clean, but all 3 had kind of weird finishes. How's that?
Done to protect Kalisto, I would imagine. And plus it set up the chairs match at TLC, which in my opinion was actually a very entertaining match. I mean, I don't know where you sit on the spectrum of this year because I don't recall us actually doing a TLC review, but I actually thought the chairs match between Corbin and Kalisto was really good.
Yeah, it actually was a very good match. Unfortunately, not much.
Those two had some very freakish chemistry, and I can't explain it.
Yeah, it was really weird how well they worked together. Wow. So, Kalisto has a good match with Baron Corbin. Kalisto has a good match with Brian Kendrick. Yeah, Luke, I'm sure.
Creative solution? You can sit on the sideline for most of December, Kalisto.
Yeah. Anyway, so Brian Kendrick ends up retaining the belt despite losing the match, which I find kind of weird because apparently it was specifically only if Kalisto, well, yeah, I guess it would be only if Kalisto actually won the belt itself would be how the Cruiserweights moved to SmackDown. And as you mentioned, with us being so close to 205 Live, this was a surprise to me that they were going to legitimately continue to keep the Cruiserweights as the Raw brand thing, but they were going to do 205 Live after SmackDown, which is really weird. And I get that really you only need, at a max, 8 Cruiserweights for an episode of 205 Live, but if you're going to do it after SmackDown, why not just make it a SmackDown thing?
Because they'd rather have to give Corey Graves airfare to do 2 different shows in 2 different cities every week.
Apparently. So, Brian Kendrick retains the belt, and 205 Live it still stays after SmackDown. At least at this point, we're this far in, and it's actually still live. I'm happy about that. Aside from 1 episode.
It's live for now.
Yeah. Aside from 1 episode.
So we were talking about our next contest, and for those of you that don't know, we'll go over the participants here in a few moments here. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be here. I'm almost certain that this match was actually longer than the Royal Rumble from 2016.
It's close.
I want to say the Rumble was somewhere, and I know you're hitting Wikipedia for the Rumble for 2016 right now, and en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Royal_Rumble _ 2016 parenthesis. But for those of you following along at home, I want to say that given the nature of the Rumble, because they had the 90-second intervals for the 2016 Rumble, so that would be 42 minutes based off of entrances alone there, and then you had the finishing sequence as well. But I don't think the finishing sequence was 13 minutes.
All right. Strictly going, as you mentioned it, jerk, but strictly going off of what I see from Wikipedia, it still has this match beat by 9 minutes. 101.42, 52.48. However, but even factoring in the additional times that we have, you have 53. I have to look specifically at the one I have. I thought it said 55. Either way, the finishing sequence going 19 minutes after the final entry into the Rumble, I could see that. They usually stretch the match to at least 55 minutes, the Rumble.
When they have the 90-second intervals, they stretch it out to 55 minutes. Let's not forget the year that Michaels went coast to coast back in '95. It was 60-second intervals, and the Rumble only went like 35 minutes. Neither here nor there, because obviously it's not Rumble. We're not discussing Rumble yet. We'll be doing that next week. Which reminds me, our next episode of Wrestling Unwrapped will be the 2017 Royal Rumble in our new special start time for pay-per-views, and we'll give you more details on that later on in the show.
Yeah. However, getting back to this match, let's get this one out of the way. I kind of have to go through everything with this one.
Correct me if I'm wrong before you go through the results here, because I know you want to get into them. Correct me if I'm wrong. The site that you used that you found 55 or whatever, IWD?
No.
Cage?
No.
And what site are you using?
It's a German site I use.
Not cagematch.de?
Fine, hang on. No, WrestlingData.com.
See, I use IWD, the Internet Wrestling Database, ProFightDB.com, if anybody's interested in checking it out. Be careful, though. You will get lost in that site. I do it all the time. I go there to look up one thing and end up 7-8 pages
anyway.
deep. But yeah, results. Go ahead.
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I had that wrong. 52-53 is what they're quoting. Anyway, in the final Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, now actually 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. It is Team SmackDown consisting of AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, Randy Orton, Shane McMahon, and Bray Wyatt with their cheerleader, James Ellsworth, just because, facing Team Raw consisting of Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Braun.
All these cheerleaders and not one of them Melissa.
Oh, shut it. Can't believe you pulled that. So, yeah, the reason why we're making such an emphasis about the time, this is the longest match in Survivor Series history, passing the previous longest of the Alliance versus WWF Survivor Series match from the 2001 Survivor Series, which was north of 46 minutes.
I think, do not quote me on this, but I think I have that match timed bell to bell at 45:45.
That would sound about right. I heard between 45 and 46, so that would sound about right.
I think I have it timed bell to bell at 45:45 when Rock pins Austin after the belt shot by Angle.
Okay. So, yeah, for the longest time, that was the longest match. And they just decided, you know what, screw it. Let's not only beat that, but steamroll it by 7 minutes. The first elimination doesn't occur, and it's Braun beating Ambrose, until 16 minutes in. Which is absurd.
It's Braun beating Ambrose after AJ Styles hits Ambrose, sending him into Strowman, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yes. So, yeah, this is just an absurdly long match. Not a bad match. Not a bad match by any means. A very, very good one. And I would say that it kept everyone engaged because of the fact that you had... See, I don't mind matches going long as long as you have enough there to fill the time. And to me, this had enough there to fill the time. This had, 10 different characters, a lot of different storylines going in, and to me was able to fit everything in the absurdly long 52-53. Like we said, this is getting up near Royal Rumble territory. And according to WrestlingData.com, because I looked this up, at 52-53, it is the 51st longest WWE match ever, strictly in WWE. And that's out of their database having over 33,000 matches.
Well, I mean,
longest.
I would imagine that that's probably not including, like, the house shows that went to, like, our Broadways back in the day, though.
It does. Or it includes quite a few house shows. Maybe not all of them, but it includes quite a few house shows.
Well,
I think they have I think they have something like 8,000 shows in their database. But it's definitely 33,000 matches.
Not to mention the hour draws were more of an NWA thing than a WWF thing.
Yeah. So, needless, this is a really long match. I didn't mind it. And this is still coming off of the fact that we were 2 years removed, I think. Yeah, 2 years removed from another absurdly long Survivor Series match, which was the Team Cena versus Team
Authority?
Yes, thank you. I had Alliance stuck in my head. Yeah, the Team Authority versus Team Cena match, which itself was something like north of 45 minutes. Or close to 45 minutes, because I think it fell just short of the Alliance WWF match. But I had no problems with it. Sure, me being a numbers guy, I was keeping track of the time, but I had no issues with it. And also, I think at this point, you had to realize they had to be going along with this, because I want to say this started in the neighborhood of 8:05 my time? Maybe 8:15? It was some absurdly early time, so I realized that they had to go a long time. So I had no problems with it going so long. I liked the match. I really do. It's just surprising at how long it was. Nothing?
Oh, no. You touched on it there. I mean, it definitely has to do with the fact that everything else on the show was relatively time-conducive, though. I mean, both of the other two Survivor Series matches won a combined 36. Miz and Sammy won about 10. Kalisto and Kendrick won about 7 or 8 because, screw the cruiserweights.
That's 53 minutes right there.
Even the pre-show matches weren't especially long either. The 6-man cruiserweight tag match only went about 5 minutes, and then I think Kane and Harper only won about 6.5.
Yeah. Which was 6.5 too long.
Well, for the result that we got, and we'll talk about that more towards the finish of this match.
Mm. But, I mean, there's several things that bear mentioning here. I mean, do you want to go with WWE airing live order, or do you want to go with WWE finishing this match by rehashing a storyline from years ago?
Wait, live murder?
Yeah. You forgot that, didn't you?
I have absolutely no clue what you're talking about.
Shane McMahon goes up for the coast to coast?
Oh, yeah, concussion. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll start with that. At this point, we're down to 3-on-2. Shane McMahon, Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins.
Oh, no, before we discuss that, I want to point out something here. What kind of freaking Superman is Shane to kick out of back-to-back code breakers?
What kind of freaking Superman is Braun Strowman to chuck James Ellsworth halfway across the arena?
Okay, that was freaking hilarious, and you know it. Okay, Ellsworth being confronted by Strowman made me laugh. Ellsworth getting flung like a rope by Braun Strowman made me laugh even harder. That right there was a man looking to earn his contract.
Welcome to the WWE, kid. But real quick, Ellsworth causes Strowman's elimination out for, I think, the second elimination of the match.
Strowman gets counted out after Shane hits the leap of faith. And also
Ellsworth holding James Ellsworth's boot while Ellsworth is trying to get in.
I was getting to that. Shane hits the leap of faith, putting Strowman through the Spanish announce table, because apparently we still hate our friends from Spain. Who knew?
Mm.
Shane gets back into the ring with a little bit of assistance, and Ellsworth is about to beat the count off of the leap of faith when Troll Ellsworth reaches out from underneath the ring, grabbing Strowman's foot during his best Hornswoggle impersonation, and makes it so that the referee, I want to say the referee was Coyote?
Maybe. I want to say Coyote ref the main.
Okay, then it was probably Little Nate.
Maybe. I'm not 100% certain.
We'll have to look that up and get that information to you when we have it. But
yeah.
And then that's what leads to Strowman's elimination. So he's not actually pinned or submitted, unlike Nia Jax, who had her character assassinated via tap out earlier on the show.
She lost to the champion.
It doesn't matter. She should have been disqualified in order to protect her streak. Nobody put a loss on Nia at that point.
She still didn't lose.
She did too.
No,
she got eliminated.
She was not the winning team.
Her team won, but she was eliminated.
She still won.
Bah, semantics.
She won. Anyway.
Okay, if we were to create a poll on the Facebook page, I guarantee you more people will side with me than will side with you on this one.
That's not true. No one will answer. Yeah, I went there. What about it?
That's three.
Anyway. So, yeah, Braun ends up eliminated via count-out, which leads to him chucking Ellsworth halfway across the Air Canada Center. Through a pair of tables that were on the floor.
With pizza on them, of all things.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, even production guys like pizza.
Yeah, why not? So yeah, we end up getting down to 3-on-2, and Shane McMahon goes up for the coast-to-coast on Roman Reigns, and you could kind of see it coming from a mile away what was actually going to happen, because you could see Roman getting ready very, very early, but Shane McMahon goes for the coast-to-coast. I'm waiting for you to say it. No? Okay.
There was no chair. It wasn't the Terminator.
There were disqualifications in this match. And we end up...
And why there was no chair.
Yeah. And Roman ends up spearing the ever-loving hell out of Shane McMahon to the point that you could see clear as day that Shane McMahon was knocked out. At which point, Roman here's where it gets weird. Roman goes for the pin. And I think he could tell that Shane's done. 1, 2, the referee claims Shane kicks out, and then says he can't continue.
Technically, Shane did kick out.
But
Shane rolled a shoulder, but I don't think he was supposed to.
Yeah, Shane is gone. Oh, we should probably mention who was in the front row.
Yeah, something about his kids being there see Shane get his ass beat on a pretty regular basis in 2016.
Yeah, if I were Shane's kids, I'd stop showing up. Maybe Daddy won't die.
I mean, at least he had his airbag at WrestleMania.
Fair enough. But, yeah. So Shane accidentally kicks out, but the referee just pretty much goes, nope, you're gone. Goodbye.
The referee by Felicia Jade.
Oh. At least it wasn't an important thing here that caused his elimination. Granted, it was Roman Reigns killing him. Anyway.
One other thing we need to touch on before the finish is the mini Shield reunion. Let's go ahead and discuss that real quick here.
Well, hang on. There's one other thing that we have to cover about this. And that is, yes, Shane's kids were in the crowd in the front row and watched Lesnar did. He nearly had his head taken off.
Orton.
Really weird thing, and he's caught on camera doing it.
Orton.
Randy
I knew
Orton,
where he was going immediately.
People, essentially has to break character to console his kids, to console Shane's kids, because why he did it, I don't know, and I'm surprised he did it because he's usually fairly good at keeping character. But maybe it was because he's got kids of his own or something, or maybe it just happened to be the fact that it realized on him that he has kids of his own and he's right in front of the guy's kids. But he actually ends up breaking character for a few seconds to console them. So fair play to him. I'm surprised he would do it.
Well, let's not forget that Orton and Shane have a history of working together, too, so.
Yeah, but even still, I'm surprised that he would do it.
Well, it wasn't going to be Bray Wyatt consoling his kids.
He scared the hell out of them. Anyway, so we get down to the final two for both teams, and you mentioned the Mini Shield reunion. I mentioned it earlier with a rehash of a storyline that was ages old, because we essentially have the Wyatt family versus the Shield.
Well, to an extent, yes. I mean, I don't know how fully entrenched in the Wyatt family lore Randy Orton's going to end up being, but yes.
He hears voices in his head.
They talk to him, they understand.
So,
they counsel him, they understand. They talk to him.
Sure. They talk to him. So, the surprising thing here is, one, Seth Rollins ends up eliminated fairly quickly. And then you get Randy Orton essentially taking the bullet here.
We're not discussing the Shield reunion first.
Why?
Because it factors into AJ's elimination.
All right, fine. Go ahead.
Well, I forget who actually pinned Styles. I want to say it was Roman, but I'm not sure. But, so, Styles and somebody, I forget who, are having a brawl around ringside with Reigns and Rollins. Out of nowhere from the back comes Dean Ambrose, and he starts attacking AJ Styles as well. Why? Because screw you, AJ, that's why. Plus, they had already announced that it was going to be Ambrose and AJ at TLC in the Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match for the SmackDown title anyway. And at this point, what does Ambrose really have to lose? I mean, there's that whole thread of The Undertaker showing up, but let's be honest, he's not showing up again on SmackDown.
I think he will. Anyway.
So Ambrose comes down from the back. Ambrose realigns with his former Shield brethren, and the Triple Shield Powerbomb says adios amigo to the English announce table. Or was it the German announce table? One of the other there are too many damn announce tables these days.
Yeah, there's about 9 now, but there's 3 at ringside. I think it was the English one.
Don't get me wrong. I enjoy popping for Funaki as much as the next guy does.
And Yamaguchi-san.
Yes, Wally Yamaguchi-san. Choppy yo pee. Anywho. I enjoy popping for the Japanese announce team more than any of the other announce teams because, frankly, there's more talent on the Japanese announce team than any of the other announce teams. That being said, the triple powerbomb by the Shield puts Styles through the table and then I think leads to his elimination courtesy of, I want to say it was Roman Reigns. I could be wrong.
Nope. It was Rollins.
Either one of the members, I knew one of the members of the Shield pinned AJ.
And then, like I said, we end up with a rehash of Wyatt family versus Shield. The bigger thing that you have to take away is, for one, Orton eliminates Rollins after an out of nowhere.
Yes. Rollins goes for a frog splash, and while not as pretty as the Seidel one where he caught him mid-shooting star press, not bad all the same.
Yeah. The bigger thing here, though, is Roman goes for a spear on Wyatt, and Orton ends up taking the bullet to kind of certify his allegiance to Wyatt, in quite frankly, a surprising thing. And
well, he had just real quick, he had just joined the family like a week and a half prior. Because if you remember, it was at the previous pay-per-view, No Mercy, which we actually covered, Wyatt ended up defeating Orton in the main event of that show.
And then coming back.
They got into another brawl the following Tuesday on SmackDown, and then the week after it was a tag match, and Orton RKO'd Kane and ended up joining the Wyatt family because he was approached by, I want to say it was Dasha Fuente, and she asked Randy why he RKO'd Kane, and then Orton's response to him was simple: if you can't beat him, join him.
Yeah. So to assert his allegiance, he takes the bullet for Wyatt. Wyatt hits the Sister Abigail, and your sole survivors end up being Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, finishing an almost hour-long marathon of a match.
I feel weird talking about a match that Bray Wyatt won on pay-per-view. It just never happens.
I know, it feels dirty almost.
Exactly. It's like, what the hell, man?
And then not only that, he ended up going back-to-back.
Yeah, him winning the tag titles, too.
Yeah. Due to, yet again, a gorgeous RKO.
Okay, so this kind of takes me into the point that I was making about the pre-show earlier, and allow me to vent for a few seconds here before we move on to something else that makes you feel dirty, and that is the fact that a WWE pay-per-view out TNA'd TNA.
Yeah.
So Orton and Wyatt stand tall at the end of the 5-on-5 men's Survivor Series match here. So yay, Wyatt family! Woo, Wyatt family! Yeah. Why is it again that Luke Harper's losing on the pre-show to Kane of all people? I mean, let's
have the entire Wyatt family win on pay-per-view.
Let's forget the fact that Kane is winning a match in 2016, which really doesn't need to happen to begin with. Harper would end up playing a role with the tag team titles, and obviously would be instrumental in them losing the tag team titles as well, due to what happened at the in the four-way tag match on SmackDown at the last SmackDown of the year for 2016. But that being said, though, the issues that are being played up between Orton and Harper, I think a win for Harper there would have benefited his standing in regards going into what appears to be a feud against Randy Orton. Kind of them competing for each other for Bray Wyatt's attention.
Let's face it, love.
I don't know, man. Sorry, bad Bray Wyatt impression aside.
What the hell was that?
I've been told that in an actual face-to-face scenario, I sound like stoned Bray Wyatt on occasion.
All right.
Which I think would basically make me Bray Wyatt, because I'm like 90% sure he's chemically altered most of the time, allegedly. Anywho, okay, other things that make us feel dirty. Shall we get to the main event?
You realize we're going to talk about the main event for longer than the main event.
Absolutely. WCW rules are not yet in effect.
Okay, there's one thing we should mention. It's the fact that the commentary team, in their infinite brilliance, 1, 2, 3, Raw wins it. No, you idiots. SmackDown won this one. Raw took the overall, technically, but SmackDown won this. You're stupid.
Quit looking for intelligence at the announce table. You're not going to find any. I love Mara more than most. But yeah, intelligence is not exactly something you find at a WWE announce table.
So
between
SmackDown wins the match, but it was all for naught because Raw wins the overall 2-1. Perfectly played 3-2 SmackDown, but they're not counted.
And despite his promise to take souls and dig holes, Taker wasn't seen again on SmackDown to punish the people who lost at Survivor Series. Or Dean Ambrose for costing
SmackDown didn't lose at Survivor Series. That's the thing. He only threatened the main guys, the guys in the main 5-on-5 match. They won, so there were no souls to take.
Yeah, but you would think that he'd be pissed off at Ambrose for coming back out and getting AJ eliminated, or AJ for turning on Ambrose earlier on in the match to begin with.
Well,
nope.
He said if you lose, there is no reason to fear failure, but there is every reason to fear the dead man. If you lose, they didn't lose, no dead man.
Well, no dead man on SmackDown now at all, so whatever. All right, moving on. Main event time.
He's not aligned to anybody. Even if you look at every single thing that posts everyone that's in the Rumble, he's not aligned to anyone. He's aligned to the dead man. Moving on to the main event. Do we have to talk about the main event? Oh, yeah, we do. The Mega Match, 12 years in the making.
Hold on. Allow me to handle the description. You ready? Mm-hmm. Ding, ding, ding. Collar and elbow. Back into the corner. Goldberg push off. Spear. Spear. He's got him up. Jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. What?
He's not wrong, folks. That was the entire match. Legitimately.
With added what in post-production?
Well, no, that was pretty much the reaction of everybody.
Do you remember the look on everybody's face when Lesnar beat Taker back at WrestleMania 30?
Yep, I was there. The look was on my face.
Yeah, that was pretty much the look that was on my face when the bell rang for this match as well. Like, did they really just fucking do that?
A lot of build for, Goldberg's return match. And that's
a lot of sizzle, not a whole lot of steak.
Now, to be fair.
Didn't Goldberg get hurt training this match?
Besides that, I think a lot of people went in expecting WCW Goldberg. That's the kind of Goldberg you get in the video game. WCW Goldberg. So, what did we get at the pay-per-view? Full entrance. He came out looking like a complete badass. We got WCW Goldberg. Did we not?
All well and good. And in the WWE Network era, you can get away with something like this because you're paying $10 for the show and you already got 2 kick-ass matches earlier on. In the non-network era, though, there would have been people lining up for refunds as far as the eye could see if they'd have pulled this stunt in the non-network era.
I'm sure people lined up for refunds with this one anyway. They do it after every damn show.
Yeah, the universe is very fickle.
Fickle's putting it nicely.
Well, I can't say what they actually are without getting censored, so.
I know. But
I believe the Australian term is wanker.
Yes, correct, actually. I know that one for a fact. That's 100% true.
Thank you, Kelly Skater. Moving on.
Kelly and, in my case, Shaza and Eagles. And, wow, I do know a lot about wrestling.
Madison.
Anyway, I said Eagles.
Oh, Matthews.
She's Canadian.
She's Canadian. She's an honorary Australian. I didn't mean to say.
Anyway.
I didn't mean to say Matthews. I meant to say McKay.
Oh, okay. Billy Kay, for those that don't know. Anyway, 86 seconds, and we're done. We go from the longest match in Survivor Series history to one of the shortest in Survivor Series history.
But not
One
the
of.
shortest.
Not
Trivia. Trivia, without looking it up. Can you name the shortest match in Survivor Series history?
Yes, because I know that one by heart. Rock versus Big Boss Man in Survivor Series Deadly Games in 1998.
Time of the fall?
4 seconds?
5. But close.
I think it's actually 4. It's roll up 1, 2, 3. That's it.
I feel like we need to do the Deadly Game at some point.
No. God, no. It's bad enough we're doing what we're doing in WCW in April. No.
Okay. The Deadly Game isn't that bad. Let's not go casting aspersions to that show.
Montreal! Go to hell!
I'm working a podcast with you. Some would say I'm already there.
I work a podcast with you. I am there. Anyway.
It was my joke. It was my joke first, so I'm going to stand by it. Anywho, yes, back to the match. Okay, so how much of the Goldberg injury rumors do you buy and not buy?
Not much. I don't buy a whole lot. I think this was done on purpose.
You think this was pure shock value?
Yes. Pure shock value, and it would virtually guarantee us getting another Goldberg match.
Do you think it ends up being Goldberg Lesnar 3 at Mania 33?
Without a doubt.
What about the rumor of Reigns, Goldberg, Lesnar in a triple threat for the WWE Raw title?
Where the hell did that come from? I've never heard that one.
I've seen it loosely rumored.
I can't believe I'm saying this, and I hate that I'm saying this. I do legitimately wonder if we're not going to get Goldberg and Lesnar for the title at Mania.
Oh, God, I can hope not.
I think it's within the realm of possibility.
See, it's situations like this that I wish we had our old network limitations when it came to language. By which I mean there were none.
There was a lot of things that was unlimited on that network.
Yeah, let's not go naming names here or anything. Let's just continue on.
I know. This whole thing just wow.
Do you remember the joke that I made when it happened?
No.
All right, I'm going to refresh your memory here. So here's what happened, right? So Vince was watching Victory Road 2011, and he realized that TNA had a main event that went 96 seconds. And he thought that anything TNA could do, I can do better. But since Vince is so far behind on pop culture, he just had to wait the extra 5 years before it happened.
Everyone said, how could a TNA pay-per-view, or how could a wrestling pay-per-view go that badly? Vince said, hold my beer. The point of this whole thing essentially came out the next night. This would not be the final Goldberg match. Goldberg would say that night, maybe I have one more title run left in me. So when it comes to the Royal Rumble, everyone is next. Thereby proclaiming himself as the first person to enter the Royal Rumble almost 2 months prior to the Rumble itself.
Trivia question, who was the second person to declare himself into the Royal Rumble match?
It's not Lesnar, I know that.
No, it was Lesnar.
Oh, well then, yeah, it's Lesnar. Lesnar, wanting revenge for what had happened and being embarrassed at Survivor Series, would also himself enter the Royal Rumble. And we would go almost, I think, either almost or over a month before anybody else was entered.
I don't even remember who the third announced entrant was.
And at this rate, we still, right now, as we're recording this, if I'm not mistaken, we still only have 18 spots filled. And we're 1 week away. Which is weird. Usually at this point, we're 25 spots filled.
Yeah, usually you have everything but the mystery participants announced by now. Which tells me that they may be planning to bring out some major surprises for the course of these extra spots inside the Rumble. Or we're going to get a bunch of R-Truth to single dust and be incredibly disappointed.
And real quick, we're recording this on January the 22nd. Earlier today, Triple H came out, and maybe it was an interview or something that Triple H did, came out today and said that they're looking to go and move the Rumble in ways that aren't expected. Which says to me, lol Goldberg wins, or lol Lesnar wins.
You know what it says to me? The 2017 Royal Rumble winner is Braun Strowman.
He said, though, that it would be a way that everyone wants. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. That was Vince talking about WrestleMania.
Oh, speaking of WrestleMania, and this actually ties into us doing our show. Did you hear the rumor for WrestleMania?
Which one?
Not so much WrestleMania, but the night after WrestleMania.
No.
They're doing a night after WrestleMania DVD set.
Oh! I think I actually did hear that one.
I feel like that is something that we could probably cover on this show relatively easily.
Very. We should also do off the air, the one that they do for the dark match stuff eventually, too.
To this day, I still get goosebumps watching Ziggler's cash-in.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, that to me is, like, I think that was the exact moment that the night after WrestleMania became a thing.
I would disagree with that because there's previous examples of major happenings for the night after Mania before that, but it certainly helped contribute to the aura of the night after Mania. But this is all stuff that we can chime in here on a little bit later. Do we have anything else to add about Goldberg and Lesnar?
No, not that I can think of. But that's how it got us to the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and we did say that we were going to use the Survivor Series match to tie into what will be our next show. And our next show will indeed be the very first official Harry and Patrick pay-per-view review. We've already done one before, but it wasn't meant to happen that way. This one's actually intentional. Something that has been kind of in the works for a while now. As much as we've enjoyed doing the Woo 2Ms, unfortunately, the problem has been consistency and the inability to get everybody gathered at a reasonable hour with which to do them. Therefore, Patrick and I had an idea when we first started to do these shows on Sundays
that on the weeks that there were pay-per-views, Patrick and I would be the first on the air after pay-per-views on the W2M network to give our thoughts, and then the guys from Wrestling to the Max would follow us. Well, starting next Sunday, January 29th, for those of you playing along in terms of listening dates for this show, we are, as Patrick said, recording this on January 22nd. Patrick and I get our wish. We serve as the lead-in on the W2M network for the guys from Wrestling to the Max to review it as we present our very own Wrestling Unwrapped review of the pay-per-views.
Indeed, and we will hopefully we will be starting, if not immediately, within a half hour of the end of the pay-per-views. And
The plan is to go on the air at around 11:30 Eastern in order to give time for a post-show.
Yeah. So we'll see how everything works out. I can already think of one case where it's going to be a special case, most likely. But that one would be fairly obvious, being WrestleMania. But other than that, yes, indeed, we will actually be back now almost every Sunday night. It's just a different start time rather than around 7 o'clock Central. Hopefully within a half an hour of the ending of any live pay-per-view, because we don't actually know how long, especially pay-per-views like the Royal Rumble, are going to go. They could run long. They could run short, like Survivor Series did. Survivor Series ended 25 minutes before the hour ended. So we'll see how everything goes.
Well, at that point, they were 5.5 hours into product, so they were probably ready to go home anyway. But the Raw pay-per-views do have a tradition of running long as well, so it all just depends on when we have the ability to. Okay, it's pretty common knowledge that I don't watch pay-per-views at home. I don't have Wi-Fi in my apartment, so I don't have the network in my apartment. So I go over and watch the pay-per-views with a group of people that I've been watching pay-per-views with since like the late 2000s, like 2007, 2008, somewhere in that range. We all get together and watch all the pay-per-views together. So it takes time for, once the show ends, it takes time for me to get back to my place and then to be able to be ready to do these reviews. But it's something that I enjoy doing, and I'm looking forward to our venture into actually doing the live pay-per-view reviews, just the two of us.
Yeah, it should be fun and interesting. But until we get to next week, why don't we finish this week? Ready for the big finish?
Yeah, I do believe I am, although I have to reset my phone real quick, so give me a few moments.
All right, how about I start then?
Okay, you do that. Let's get into the big finish.
All righty. So, as we always do, it is time for the big finish. It is time for the best and the worst match and the cash in the trash of Survivor Series 2016. I will start things off here and start with the worst match of the pay-per-view. And in this case, for me, it's a little bit obvious, and Harry may actually agree with my pick. Whenever I do things like this, we tend to disagree. And in this case, my worst match is not the match itself, but Sami Zayn versus The Miz. Reason for that being quite obvious. Vince, stop doing Montreal. We get it. It happened. At this point, it happened 19 years ago. Stop it. The match itself was good, as much as it grinds my gears to have to say something like that, considering how it is. But that finish screwed the entire thing over for me. So I can't move past that, despite other matches being a bit of a cluster, you know what. But it irks the hell out of me, the fact that we're still doing the Montreal finish in some form or another almost 2 decades later. Vince, stop it.
I feel like we're that. I feel like we're that parent that's running around chasing the dog with the newspaper. Bad, Vince. Bad.
Do I have to stick your nose in there? Harry, what's your worst match?
Well, I was just about to tell you. My worst match for this show is Kendrick and Kalisto, and it's not so much that it's bad ring work, because we talked about the fact that of all the matches that Kendrick had since he came back into the WWE that weren't part of the Cruiserweight Classic, because his match with Ibushi in the Cruiserweight Classic was really good, but of all the matches that Kendrick has had since he's been back in the WWE, not Cruiserweight Classic material goes, the Kalisto match is probably the best match because those two just gelled incredibly well. And I think that the credit to that goes more to Kalisto than it does to Kendrick, because Kalisto's been gelling pretty much with everybody he's been in the ring with recently. It's just, well, yet again, it's a case of a finish bringing down a match to me. And I don't like the fact that with a match that had such relative high stakes, such as the fact that the entire Cruiserweight division was on the line in this contest, they went with some bullshit DQ finish. I understand the point of wanting to protect Kalisto, but if you didn't want Kalisto in there to lose to Kendrick, then put somebody in there that could lose to Kendrick and you wouldn't have to worry about it.
Fair enough. So, alrighty. So what is, do you want me to just start all of them in this case?
Might as well. We've established a pattern.
Yeah, that's true. So moving to the best match of the night, and just because you're the longest doesn't always mean you're the best, but in this case, the longest was the best for me. Being the 5-on-5 men's Survivor Series match, the sub-main event, and quite frankly, you could argue the main event because of what would happen after. But I felt like, despite the fact that it goes, like I said, almost an hour, 52, 53, somewhere in that ballpark, it's a marathon of a match. But for me, it kept me engaged the entire time. It had somewhat of a shocking finish with Orton, taking the bullet from Reigns in order to save Bray so that Bray would be able to pick up the final victory to win the entire match. And it had enough entertaining moments, like, Braun chucking James Ellsworth all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. Or you also, as much as yeah, exactly. As much as it pains me to say this, you had the somewhat shock value of Shane almost dying. I'm sorry, Shane. But you also had him doing the leap of faith elbow as well. There's a lot that goes down here that I think is able to keep your attention for long enough. And it's, aside from the Reigns-Shane botch, it's a clean match. They do a damn good job, and they all work their asses off for this match. Maybe they realized what they were up against with the finish, so maybe they put a little more into it. But I actually found that the match itself was a very, very good, very strong match. And I'm glad that they were willing to give them the time because of the fact that I thought they were able to keep everyone engaged at least enough in the entire match. So for me, best match of the night goes to the 5-on-5 men's match. Harry?
First of all, it can't be a strong match. Roman didn't go over.
Harry, what the hell's your best match of the night?
Actually, I have a question for you. It's more of a did you know, though. Did you know that you would have to watch the Goldberg-Lesnar match 35 times in order to reach the length of that Survivor Series match between Raw and SmackDown?
I didn't know that. Legitimately, I had kind of wondered about it, though.
I just did the math via calculator while you were doing your best match. It works out 53 divided by 1.5 is 35.3. So you would have to watch Goldberg and Lesnar 35 times to reach the length of the Survivor Series match between Raw and SmackDown's men's divisions. Just a fun
fact. To give you an even more specific answer.
Just a fun fact. Okay, anywho, as much as I enjoyed the men's match, I actually like the Tag Team Survivor Series match more. And the reason I say I like the Tag Team Survivor Series match more is because you had a couple of really big surprises there. You had the Usos taking out the New Day super early. You had the Club getting a pinfall over the American Alpha, which I do believe was one of their first losses in the WWE. You had Heath Slater and Rhino being eliminated by Enzo and Cass, which I actually questioned when it happened because I thought that might mean that we were going to send Enzo and Cass to SmackDown and then have the Usos come to Raw. And I'm glad it didn't happen because, in hindsight, trades that early and stuff would probably have been bad for this whole brand extension thing, wanting to establish separate identities. But I also thought that the ring work between all the teams was very crisp, which was surprising given some of the people involved in this match. Let's be honest. Nobody cares about the Shining Stars. They only become relevant when they need extra bodies.
I.e. Survivor Series.
I.e. Survivor Series. I.e. WrestleMania when it's a multi-team title match. I.e. The Royal Rumble when they need filler spots, i.e. pretty much any other major thing you can think of that requires extra people to be there. Lumberjack matches, you know.
Here, I'll put it this way. It's hard to take you seriously when your gimmick is literally travel agents.
Sleazy timeshare sellers, yes.
Yeah, so.
But with all that working against it, specifically the quality of some of the teams there, I think that they packed more than enough action to keep it very entertaining for the 18 minutes that they went for this match. So I'm going to give a slight edge to the tag team match because my expectations were significantly lower for the tag match than they were for the 5-on-5 men's match. And while I think the 5-on-5 men's match met my expectations, the tag team match far exceeded them.
Fair enough. By the way, 52-53, 86, or I should say 52-53 when you bump it down to strictly seconds, divided by 86, 36.89.
I rounded.
So you could legitimately watch, or you could fully watch Goldberg and Lesnar 36 times and almost get a 37th in the time of the 5-on-5 men's match.
I guess that depends on how fast you are on the rewind button on your remote.
Watch it on a continuous loop. Bell to bell.
Only if you have it on DVD, though, because you cannot continuous loop the network.
Well, fair enough. Anyway.
I mean, most DVDs have that A to B feature that you could use, but the network does not have said option.
That's true. Moving on, though. Time for cash and trash. This one should be interesting. What's your cash for this show? What's your cash for Survivor Series?
This one's easy for me. That's that backstage segment we talked about earlier in the show with Strowman and Ellsworth. Like, that's not even a question for me. It's finally something from the creative staff that rewards the long-time viewer.
Fair enough. For me, I thought they paced the show well, despite the shock value of the main event. I liked that they did. I liked that they. The only thing I would have possibly done was reverse the order, and instead of doing Survivor Series singles, Survivor Series singles, Survivor Series singles, do singles, Survivor Series singles, Survivor Series singles, Survivor Series. Even though I know Goldberg and Lesnar ain't gonna have their match if they're not going last. I understand that, But other than that, I thought the pacing of it was really well. If anything, they probably could have afforded to give a little bit more time to at least the tag match, because we mentioned that they did the tag matches in the first two Survivor Series back in the 80s. Those matches also went like a half hour. You know, they went a good long time. So I'm surprised that this one would only go 18 minutes. But I'm glad that they paced the show how they did, with not doing back-to-back Survivor Series style matches, but also not doing a super long time in between Survivor Series matches. I thought 6 matches was the perfect amount for a show like this. So I'm happy that they went with something very simplistic like that. Maybe you switch the tag in the women's, maybe not. But other than that, I even remember watching this live, I never felt tired. I felt that everything was going well time-wise. I was happy with how it was. I never felt tired, and even rewatching it, I was glad that it was paced how it was. So I was happy with that.
Oh, no, let's be honest. Some of these pay-per-views can be a real chore to get through, especially if you're going back and watching it a second time, or in some cases multiple times, in order to be able to get all the nuances that you need in order to do a show such as ours. So, yeah, it's definitely appreciated when a show can keep your attention for the duration that the show is running. As far as the apologies, unprofessional. I apologize.
How professional are we ever?
Well, that's true, but I'm freaking exhausted right now. But anyways, back to that Survivor Series tag matches that you were referring to from yesteryears and stuff. The one in 1988 actually runs 40 plus minutes, no less. And that's even under the same stipulation that when your partner is pinned, both you and your partner head to backstage.
I'm just glad I had an easier time watching this one, because they decided, hey, rather than have everybody on one side, why don't we just have 5 guys on one side of the corner and 5 guys on the other side? Maybe more people can see.
Well, it's my opinion that the tag team match, they should have been lumberjacks. Like, you should have had 5 on the apron and then 5 on the floor. Or 4 on the apron and 5 on the floor, I guess, technically. Because one would have to be in the ring.
Oh. Anyway. Alrighty, so we finished our cash. What is your trash? What the hell bugs you about this one?
Besides the fact that we built up all this way for that finish, Kane beating Luke Harper on the pre-show, that doesn't count, does it?
It shouldn't.
Okay, then you're going to have to come back to me on this one, because I'm going to have to think about that. Oh,
wow,
I know what it is.
Okay, I was about to say,
I know what it is.
Find a negative thing?
I know what it is. The announce team and the constant switching off of all the announcers, it got confusing trying to figure out who was who for which matches and stuff. The thing about these dual brand pay-per-views is if you're going to do matches where the brands intersect, then you need to set a specific announce team for that match. Like how they're doing for the Royal Rumble. They're having Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Jerry Lawler call the Rumble. What you need to do is you need to establish a set team for the dual brand pay-per-views. There's an entire possibility Michael Cole might not be a thing come Survivor Series 2017. But under the assumption that he is, then maybe Cole, Morrow, and pick a color commentator, or
Corey, without a shadow of a doubt.
Or if it needs to come to it, do Corey, Morrow, and Bradshaw for the commentary team for Survivor Series.
That'll work for me.
Well, just because the rumors are that Cole wants to kind of take more of a backstage role in the company at this point.
Which actually upsets me because, and I know you didn't have a chance to watch it, but we got an example of it with the Japan show. We got an example of it with the UK tournament. If doesn't have to plug the network and, you know, sound like a blithering idiot on purpose. Michael Cole can be damn good.
Oh, no, I think a lot of what happens is with Raw and the pay-per-views, it's a lot of that is Vince yelling in his earpiece, telling him what needs to be plugged and promoted for the companies, for the sake of the bottom line there. Whereas when it comes to shows like Beast in the East and like the UKCT, Michael Cole, once he's left to his own devices, and specifically if he's left to somebody that he's comfortable working with, like, you can tell that him and Byron are actually friends. Because there was a very natural chemistry when him and Byron did Beast in the East. And you could tell that Cole was genuinely excited for Nigel McGuinness to get the opportunity with the WWE that Nigel got for the UKCT. Because what I did listen to I haven't had a chance to watch the UKCT yet. I'm planning on watching it, but I haven't had the chance to yet. But everything I'm hearing said very, very strong reviews, very positively strong reviews for Cole and McGuinness as a commentary team.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we even get too far, my trash for this actually is the exact same thing. Because the commentary, got confusing because of the fact that you had, I believe, if not 5 guys switching off, and B, lo and behold, they were sounding like idiots. Surprise, surprise. So, yeah, it just, the commentary itself, I'm looking.
This is part of why.
They had 6 guys for this one.
Yeah, this is part of the reason why I don't like 3-man booths. I think that commentary is best done in 2-man teams.
Sorry.
I personally definitely prefer working with just one person for the duration of a show rather than having to work in multiple commentary people.
Yeah, because in this case, like we said, you had both shows' entire teams doing this, with kind of Michael Cole taking the charge on singles matches and somewhat representing both shows a little bit, but you had all 6 guys, Otunga, JBL, Mauro Ranallo, Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton. And I don't think we've had a dual-branded pay-per-view yet that could possibly feature. Do you realize that means if they were to try and pull this at the Rumble, or if they tried to pull it at Survivor Series next year, assuming Cole is still doing his thing, they'd have to try and smash 7 guys into commentary.
Oh, no, Tom Phillips would be keeping his happy ass home.
Or doing interviews in the social media lounge?
Yes, 100%.
All right, good. So, yeah, Michael Cole, when he's good, but he'll never get a chance to be good unless he's doing the UK show with Triple H in his ear, possibly, because I have a hunch that Triple H was the one guiding him through
I would argue that if Cole were to stick around at the commentary table, the sooner Triple H takes over the full-time running of the company, the better for Cole.
Yeah. So,
I give Cole a lot of crap, but the fact of the matter is that he's proven on multiple occasions that when he's left to his own devices, he's actually a competent announcer, which is more than a lot of people gave him credit for the longest time.
Yeah, well, like I said, it was hard to give him credit, especially, remember when we reviewed St. Valentine's Day Massacre? We ripped him to shreds because he sounded like an idiot. Granted, that was 17 years ago, and, well, actually, at that point, he still was an idiot, but...
Not to mention, he was just a couple of months into his commentary duties at that point as well. So there's one thing you can't teach, and that is experience. Experience is gained. It is not learned.
Yeah. So, one final thing before we finish plugging everything under the sun. What is your final rating for this past November's 30th annual Survivor Series?
That is a difficult question to answer. And the reason I say that is because I remember giving a hot take reaction to it in the poll that got posted on the W2M Facebook group. You can find it on Facebook by searching for Wrestling to the Max. Also, you can find Wrestling Unwrapped on Facebook by going to facebook.com/WU off the shelf. Anyway.
Coincidentally, you can find us on Twitter at WU off the shelf as well.
Actually, I think we're Wrestling Unwrapped on Facebook now that you mentioned that. But anyways, all the same.
Anyway.
Back to my overall show rating. I think when I was originally asked this question on the group, I think I gave it a 6, but I'm going to actually bump that up a point, and I'm going to give it a 7. And the reason I'm going to give it a 7 is because I was really entertained by all of the matches except for one, and you can probably guess the one match that I wasn't entertained by. And it has a lot to do with the fact that you know me probably as well as most people online do at this point. You know, you're one of the few that we give each other grief on the show, but we're actually genuinely friends. And you know a lot of my likes and my dislikes when it comes to professional wrestling, and you happen to know for a fact that one of the few people who I legitimately cannot stand in the world of professional wrestling is Bill Goldberg. I've never cared for him. I never will. I have no interest in seeing him in a ring again. So other than that match, though, if you factor in the first 5 matches before it, the Women's Survivor Series match, the Intercontinental title match, the Cruiserweight title match, and then the other 2 Survivor Series matches there, you have a really, really good show that, pardon the phraseology here, Sean, goes to shit with that main event. I get why the main event goes the way that it does, but it's still, in my opinion, it kind of belittles everything that came before it earlier on the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with a 7 because I think I underrated it originally, but I can't go any higher than a 7 because of what they did with that main event.
Yeah. Well, see, to me, if you take out the main event and you cancel out the finishes, this could be an 8.5 pay-per-view. Legitimately. Like, I fully believe that. However, I think with the fact that all 3 singles matches end in some weird form, and not necessarily a non-clean finish, as, you know, the main event, the final match, wasn't clean as a whistle. But that one ends in less than 90 seconds, and that's the final match of the night. The Cruiserweight title ends via disqualification. The Intercontinental title ends via Montreal in some form or another. That, to me, is almost a full point for 90-second finish. Half point and half point. Now, with the fact that I actually liked Goldberg in WCW, and while I was shocked at the very beginning, but the more I thought about it, I saw that they were essentially doing a WCW Goldberg homage. Everything about it, from the entrance through the bell ringing the second time, 90 seconds after it rang the first time. The only difference was Goldberg celebrating with his kid after. Fake.
Which,
you
by
get
the way,
all of
put a
that.
shirt on.
What?
Which, by the way, somebody tell that kid to put a shirt on.
Why don't you go and tell Goldberg to tell his kid to put a shirt on?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I have to give the exact same score of a 7. This is a very good pay-per-view, actually, that to me is ruined by the fact that half of the matches have weird endings. At least the Survivor Series matches, the main focus matches, all were good. And were good. But to me, it's just brought down by the fact that the other matches, the non-focal matches, aside from the mega match, all ended really goofy. So it's definitely very much more good than bad, but I cannot give it an 8 just by how a lot of the matches do finish. So, yeah, I'm giving the exact same score of a 7.
I think when we actually post the review of this on W2Mnet, I think we need to include the hashtag MontrealLOL.
No.
It would be funny.
To you.
Yes, to me. I would be curious. Actually, you know what I want to do? And we can do this as a project for the Facebook page because we don't do enough exclusive stuff for the Facebook page anymore. We should go back and see how many different times the WWE has recreated Montreal just for the sake of seeing how often Vince has beaten this dead horse.
I can think of 3.
I can think of 5.
I can think of 3 immediately. If you give me some thought, yeah, there's probably a hell of a lot. And do we want to do just WWE?
Well, yeah, it would have to be just WWF/E.
Okay. Anyway, so this all wraps up the Survivor Series as we now approach the 30th annual Royal Rumble next Sunday. And as Harry mentioned, and I mentioned before, we will be on the air very soon after. We're not exactly sure how specifically soon, but we'll be on very soon after. Because, quite frankly, who the hell wants to watch the Pro Bowl? So we will be... What?
The plan is 11:30 Eastern for the pay-per-view recap shows.
But, it may be hit or miss by a few minutes.
Card subject to change.
Exactly. So, and then, did we ever decide, are we definitely doing 2 weeks?
Yes, we're definitely going to have a Super Sunday on February 5th.
Okay. So, yes, we will be here Sunday. So we're going to have a few non-normal episodes in a row here. Next Sunday, we'll be back on at approximately 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern, following the 30th Annual Royal Rumble. Remember the Rumble. Then 2 weeks from today, we will actually still be on the air despite that game going on, which, by the way, go Falcons. Now that I know who won the AFC title game, go to hell, Tom Brady. I hate you. But we'll be on covering the only time the WWF ever decided to fully do something important against that game, as we will be covering Halftime Heat with the empty arena match of The Rock facing Mankind for the WWF Championship, with Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Kevin Kelly on commentary because there's 2 different commentary teams. I don't know why, but there are. So that will be what you can look forward to for the next 2 weeks. Any final thoughts before we get on here?
Well, look at the bright side. At least it's only 3 people instead of 6.
True.
Tonight's episode of Wrestling Unwrapped has been brought to you by the Madhouse Toy Chest. Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. If you are a fan of anything wrestling, DVDs, action figures, VHS tapes, magazines, posters, and such, you can find it inside of the Madhouse Toy Chest. Mention that you heard this advertisement here on Wrestling Unwrapped and receive a free gift with your purchase. I am going to have to record this so that way I can quit stumbling over it every time I try to say it. That is
Stumble through the recording.
Stores.ebay.com/Madhouse Toy Chest. I would, but I'd have to get one that I get perfectly right, which could probably take me a while.
I was going to say, you'd stumble through the recording, so.
Wrap us up.
Okay. And as always, we are brought in partnership with the W2M Network. If you want more information, including to go back and be able to hear this review, and not only that, see our written reviews of past shows, including our brand new one that just came out today our written review of ECW December to Dismember, going back over a year to our very first episode on the W2M Network, be sure to check out W2Mnet.com. Why did you make me go through that pay-per-view again, you jerk? Anyway.
Oh, it's going to... we have April coming up. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
I know. Until next week, though, for Harry Broadhurst, for Sean Garmer, I'm Patrick Ketza. We will see you sometime next Sunday night covering the Royal Rumble. You have been listening to Wrestling Unwrapped Off the Shelf as we cover the 30th Annual Survivor Series here on the W2M Network. We'll see you next week.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.